Good day once more, my esteemed viewers, and welcome once again to our channel. You will recall that this is Alfonso the Rothschild tutorial, a channel dedicated to helping the general public who is interested in deepening their English language, but more especially to our IELTS hopefuls who are desirous of having a better grasp of this all-important examination to get to understand it better. In case you are joining us for the first time, a very warm welcome to you. Welcome to our channel, and please stay tuned, and I assure you, you will not regret being a part of this epoch-making event. Let us begin by answering a question that I am sure must be agitating your mind, especially if you are just joining us on this channel. And the question is, what is IELTS? IELTS is the acronym for International English Language Test System. It is an examination conducted by the UK authorities to assess the proficiency in English language of third world students, including Nigerians, who are desirous of pursuing higher education abroad, especially in the UK, in the United States of America, in Australia, in Canada, and New Zealand, as well as a few other European countries whose universities require IELTS certification for the admission of international students from third world countries. That is what IELTS means. Now, apart from IELTS education, this channel is also dedicated to helping us have a better grasp of basic English. So if you are with us here, you will get to understand basic English better as we frequently shift from IELTS classes to basic English classes. Today, we are having a video, our second video on economic model analysis, focusing on bar charts. A bar chart is one of the economic models that the IELTS students, especially the academic students, are obliged to analyze in the examination. By the way, the IELTS writing has two basic categories. And for the purpose of this video, we will talk about the IELTS writing task 1. The task 1 has a subcategory for general students, IELTS general students, that is, those IELTS hopefuls who are desirous of furthering their careers or vocations abroad. That segment of the IELTS writing deals with simple letter writing, including the informal letter, the semi-formal letter, and the formal letter. While the other category of IELTS writing task 1 has to do with the analysis of basic tools of economic analysis. That is, analyzing economic models, including statistical tables, statistical maps, pie charts, bar charts, graphs, histograms, pictograms, and statistical maps. Today, therefore, we are taking a look at a bar chart. A bar chart is an example of one of such economic models. These models are used as a simplified or summarized version of presenting information that will be more detailed if otherwise presented. It is a concise presentation of economic values and economic variables so that their movements and interactions can be spotted at a glance. For the purpose of you who might be joining us for the first time, let us talk about some fundamentals of this kind of economic model that you need to understand for a better grasp of the kind of analysis that we are doing today. First, a chart of this nature has two axes. The first, the vertical axis, is known as the x-axis and represents the dependent variables. The second, the horizontal axis, also known as the y-axis, represents the independent variables. Now, what is a variable? In case this is a question that is agitating your mind at the moment. A variable is an economic value that is capable of changing. An economic value which over time can increase, can decrease, can rise, can fall, can stabilize, can fluctuate in values. What this implies is that virtually anything, any kind of good or service is an example of an economic variable. For instance, the rates of school dropouts among the boy child in Kano State, for instance, between the years 2020 and the year 2025 is an example of an economic variable because the rate of school dropouts among boy students in Kano State over a period of 5 years might have risen or fallen. It possibly has stabilized or has been fluctuating, as the case may be. So it is an example of an economic variable. And so what this means that every value that is capable of being measured is an example of an economic variable. Now, back to the chart. Like I said earlier on, this is the vertical axis, which is called the dependent variable, or rather, it contains, it displays the dependent variables. Why are the variables dependent? For example, this axis of the chart is captioned percentage unemployment. That means it displays figures from 0 to 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 to 25 to 30 and so on. Values that represent either an increase in percentage unemployment or a decrease in percentage unemployment. The point of the chart where we have 0 is called the point of origin. And that is because all values originate from this point and either move upwards, that is an increasing trend, away from 0, or move downwards towards 0, meaning a decreasing trend. Why are these values dependent? It is because the percentage unemployment cannot increase or rise in a vacuum. It depends on the years. So the horizontal axis, where we have the years 1969 rates and 1979 rates, represents the independent variable. So the years are examples of the independent variables. The years are independent because it is a phenomenon of nature, a natural phenomenon. The years do not depend on any other factor to either rise, because the years keep rising and never fall. That is why it is the independent variable. As the years rise, percentage unemployment can increase or fall, which is why it depends on the years. It depends on the years, and so is known as the dependent variable. Known as an IELTS candidate. In an example, what are you expected to do with an economic model of this nature? First, you need skill in being able to analyze the model. To analyze here means to understand the model and the parts that it is made up of, the values that it is made up of, and the movement among these values. Which values are increasing, which values are falling or decreasing, which values are stagnating, which values are stable, which values are fluctuating, which values are intermediate, and so on and so forth. After being able to analyze the chart in this way, you will be in a position to put into writing, that is, give an orderly report of the analysis that you have made. That is what IELTS requires of you. To this end, first we need to take a look at the theme or the topic or the caption of the economic model that is facing us. It says the chart shows the variations in unemployment rates in the USA in 1969 and 1979. That is, the economic model studies the variations in unemployment rates in the USA in two different years, 1969 and 1979. The study is a survey of 8 human groups, and the unemployment rates among them within the survey period. The chart we have here is an example of a multiple bar chart. That is a bar chart where multiple bars, when we say multiple bars, I mean 2 or more bars are grouped together to represent varying values. In this case, you can see that there are 8 groups of bars. 8 groups of bars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Each group of bars represents varying values, that is, containing values, unemployment values for 1969 and unemployment values for 1979. As you can see from the key to the chart, the first bar of each group represents the 1969 rates, while the second bar of each group represents the 1979 rates. The bars differ in size, and the differences in size represents differences in values. So a longer bar represents more values than a shorter bar, as the case may be. Now let's take a look at the groups that these bars represent. The first group of bars stand for all workers. The second group stands for both sexes, 16 to 19 years old. The second group of bars stand for teenagers, aged 16 to 19 years. The third bar represents males, 20 and above. The third group of bars represents the male population, aged 20 years and above. The fourth bar represents the female population, females, 20 and above. It represents the female population, aged 20 years and above. And the fifth bar stands for experienced wage and salary workers. The fifth group of bars represents experienced workers and salary earners. Experienced wage and salary earners, that is, experienced workers who earn wages and salaries. And the sixth bar stands for married men, seventh bar stands for women who head families. The seventh bar represents the values, the unemployment values for women who were heads of families. While the last bar, the eighth bar, represents blue-collar workers. That is artisans like mechanics and electricians, electrical engineers, motor mechanics, and dockyard workers, masons, bricklayers, carpenters. These are together grouped as blue-collar workers. So the eighth bar represents the unemployment values for 1969 and 1979 for blue-collar workers. Now, as an IELTS student, what should you do next? First, you should develop skill on grouping of data, that is how to group data. When I say how to group data, I mean the ability to assemble the extreme data together and then the intermediate data together. When I say extreme data, I mean the values that are rising and the values that are falling. Again, the highest values and lowest values are to be grouped separately. Sometimes we can group the highest and lowest values together because they are both extreme values. And then after that, we now talk about the intermediate values. In other words, the values that come between these two extremes. At other times, in this case, when you're writing, you can discuss one extreme value first. That means discuss the highest values first, discuss the lowest values, and then make highlights on the intermediate values. What can we discover at a glance if we look at the graph or chart? What we discover is that 1969 recorded the lowest rate of unemployment in the survey period. 1969 recorded the lowest rate of unemployment in the survey period. You can see 1969 represented by the first bars. The first bar of each group represents 1969. It represents the lowest value when we talk about unemployment between 1969 and 1979. So 1969 recorded the lowest rate of unemployment during our survey period. What we discover next is that the lowest rate of unemployment during the study period was recorded in 1969 by married men. That the lowest unemployment rate occurred among married men in 1969, and it is represented by this bar. What we discover next, apart from this, is that the highest rate of unemployment in both 1969 and 1979 occurred among both sexes, aged 16 to 19 years of age. In other words, teenagers recorded the highest rate of unemployment in both years, 1969 and 1979. Unemployed teenagers, people aged 16 to 19, had the largest number of unemployed people among them in both 1969 and 1979. And this is represented by the two bars that we have here. Apart from that, the second highest unemployment rate occurred in 1979 among women who had families. That is the bar we have here. Occurred in 1979 among women who had families. And apart from this, the other rates of unemployment, the other members of the group we are surveying had an unemployment rate that were roughly equal, more or less below the ones that we have spoken about. So these are the intermediate values that we will highlight on. They are not so important. That we will highlight on as we go on to make our analysis, but not give all details about. Now, what have I said so far? In making your analysis, you need skill in grouping data, that's grouping values, and then you also need skill in making comparisons. Of course, inherent in what I have said so far is a comparison of the highest values and the lowest values, and some of the intermediate values. This skill of comparison helps to shed more light on the analysis you are making, enabling your audience to understand which values are the highest, which values are the lowest, which values are intermediate, and how they are related or not related, as the case may be. So that is our analysis. So as you can see, 1969 recorded the lowest rate of unemployment among the 8 groups that were surveyed. For instance, the unemployment rate in 1979 all fell below 5%. All fell below 5%. You can see the bars represented. Now, apart from this, the lowest of such records occurred among married men, whose value stood at just above 0, somewhere around 2%. So roughly 2% of married men were unemployed. Only 2% of married men were unemployed in 1969, while about 3% of them were unemployed in 1979. So in both 1969 and 1979, married men recorded the lowest rate of unemployment. Apart from these, the highest rate occurred in both 1969 and 1979 among teenagers aged 16 to 19, with the highest rate of unemployment occurring in 1979, a rate of unemployment that was put at 16.1, roughly 16.1% in 1979, and just below 15%, in 1969. Apart from this, the only other high unemployment rate occurred among women who had families in 1979, when the unemployment rate among these women stood at just above 5%. So this is our analysis. Having said this, we are now in a position to do the written analysis of the explanations concerning this economic model that we have just made. Before I end this video, may I appeal to you once again to please give a thumbs up to this video and possibly subscribe to this video so that you will encourage us to give you more of these kinds of videos. Please subscribe to this video and then like this video so you can encourage us to give you more of them. Thank you very much for being a part of this journey towards progress today. Bye-bye.